they attack the cardiovascular the most. Why? Because that's the epicenter of your magnetic field, right?
That's exactly.
If they destroy that, then you're gone. You're gone.
And
That's
see,
it.
people don't understand how they have to build that. Because I mean, I work with students all the time, and I said, you don't understand. You've got to dial your frequency up, and I taught them how to dial it in. Well, that's how I was trained. I mean, I had a dial. I mean, I had a radio dial that I used to use, and they put me right in there, and they said, remember? And I was laying in bed in myself doing dialing right here, and then I could feel it how it would move. Well, see, but I'm also dyslexic. People that are dyslexic have a different energy field and my sensitivity, and that's why we can reverse. The only reason why I should never been able to go to college. I should never even. I no wonder I couldn't read. I had to learn. I had to teach myself how to reverse. That's why I didn't go when I had my two strokes. And I had the one stroke. It took me 9 months to be able to talk. And I reversed it. And you can see I talk very well.
Well, the to the audience, Jenny's talking about this dialing in, and it's palpable. Understand this, know this to be true. How palpable that is, I experience exactly the same thing, and it's part of the practice. And once you create this, it's a density in this energy center here, energy center here, energy center here. Now there are more off ports of these energy centers, but the main ones is where you start to direct.
Yeah.
And,
Oh, and then
and
I had buttons. I laid in and I could go like this, lay down in myself when naturally every time I get on, they wanted, and I would lay down and it would go ding, 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 and you could hear the tone. And I
and,
thought, oh,
and
yeah,
you
it would tone it up into vibration.
and you feel it, right? So what
Absolutely.
people need to understand is like we're feeling something that on a biological level to a
Yeah.
neurologist would say that's not possible. Sorry, no,
Oh,
no,
well, that's fun.
you cannot. But these people, when you understand energy, you feel everything. All of a sudden, all bets are off.
Well, that's what doctors, and I even told the cardiologist that I was working with, I said, if you all knew what I knew, you would be doing a better job. And I mean, they looked at me. I mean, one of them, he was 30 years old, and here I'm 72. And he said, I said, I will not take these pills because of this, this, and this. And I've done the research and everything. He said, what'd you do? Get that on YouTube? And I raised up, and my friend Jennifer is a doctor. She's already been with me. She was a physical therapist, but a mouth fish. She's seen me do all of this. She can do it too. She looked at him. She said, you're making a big mistake on this one. And I came up on him and I said, no, I did not. I said, I'm a scientist. I said, I felt it that you don't understand. And I laid back down.
And that's that. Well, that's that density that we're speaking of. So that the density. How I would describe it is, it's so palpable that when you fill these overflow these cups of contained
Yes.
energy, you can literally they're masses of energy that you
And they
condense.
will pop and move you out of the way. I mean, big pockets of energy, and you'll not be thrown off. I mean, I've been thrown out of my own self and then brought back in.
And this is all just part of mastering and cultivating the energy. And once
Yes.
you get started,
So
once you start listening to the practices of Jenny or myself, you're able to palpate this stuff. This is
yes.
not. This is like what. Here's the one that I'd love to hear your thoughts on. What people seem to misunderstood is the higher you get, the denser the energy, not the lighter. And people seem to think it's like they've got this Hollywood version. It's like, oh no, when you ascend, it's just all so thin. It's the you can't experience, you don't feel anything.
It's plasma. You're
Right,
going to be in plasma. And then you
right.
got to figure out what kind of plasma are you in? Are you in a dark pocket? There's so much going on, but as long as you're grounded, you'll come back in. Because
Yeah.
I have a lot of clients that say, I jerk at night. I said, because you're not grounded. Your soul is trying to come in, or your soul is, your spirit, whatever you want to call. I said, it's trying to go on the runway and it's going like this, trying to stop you. And they said, I said, you've got to let go. That's
And
the whole thing is about relaxation anyway.
right, right.
If they would relax inside, they could have so much more given to them.
Well, look at that. Like near death experiences are a great example for a jump start to get an idea of what it's like. Then
Yeah.
you have an OBE where people get obsessed with that and they're like, I've got to have this experience. Then you have a phenomenon that most people don't understand until you explain it to them, sleep paralysis, which
Oh,
again is like a well, you know what that is? It's like a snap. I'm trying to remind people. It's like it's a snapshot of you moving into another dimension. Then you realize what's going on, and because you're so like thrown with the fact that it seems to you that you're dead, that it's like it's a flip out. And now, of course, where you're at with the dimensional shifts that Jenny's going talking about and how I speak on it, it goes way beyond the whole Hollywood thing. I've got to float out of my body. I've got to look around. I've got to see my no. It's beyond that.
it's way beyond that, and you can't even put words to it because it doesn't have words. It took me a long time just to explain to some people about me seeing the light of, God. What I saw is God, and I mean, it was the real light, the radiance, and it was an intelligence of a being, but it had no imagery in it. It was just an intelligent being of beyond. It was supernatural as far as I was concerned. But that's exactly what you're talking about. How I learned how to do it is because I had a lot of paralysis. And when I was married, I trained my little finger to take the energy. Is all I had to do is touch my husband's body, wherever it was, through this, and it bring me back in. So what happened? And I practiced this a lot because it used to scare me, and I didn't know what I was really doing. But when one day I can't go to the theater anymore because the lights and the sound take me out of my body, and I'll go up into the theater and I'll be up at the top while the guy's eating the popcorn and I'm watching the back of my head looking at it because it happened. And you know who it was? It was the movie Lucy.
Uh-huh.
And she went into particles.
Right.
Well, when she went into particles, I went into particles. So I'm up here in the theater. This guy's having popcorn. I'm on the top of him. I mean, I'm going, now how do I get back in there? So I'm
Wow.
trying to look all around the theater. Where can connect through light, sound to get back into my body? And my next door, I had a friend that was with me and it was a client, but I knew my finger. So I pushed and pushed that energy, and I finally tapped her, and I came back in like that. And she went, "Are you okay?" And I said, "No, I'm not," because it took me a couple of hours to get back in because I'd never gotten out like that. I was always been here where I could control it. Then I got really good, and I thought I can't go to the theater anymore because I don't like that feeling. Because it really, I had to really, you're there, but you could see I could see the back of my head.
Oh,
And oh
you
yeah,
can you can go. I mean, and now looking at the mastery of how you are controlling it at will, it's a whole nother ball game.
it is.
And initially there are these moments of complete and utter fear. Like I like to, when people come to me with a sleep paralysis story, I always remind people, well, how did you get there? They're like, well, how did I get there? I felt like I was being controlled by an entity. I couldn't move. I couldn't say anything. I felt like I was dying. All these things. Well, all of that is you identifying with the physical,
Yes.
even though you are already
Reality to
you're
it.
in another dimension. And so when you're breathing, you're not breathing from this physical body anymore,
I
right?
try to tell people. They said, I remember the first time when I really went over, and I was trying to breathe, and finally this voice said, "You don't have lungs, dear." I went, I was gone.
Right, right.
And you
And
still don't realize you don't have a body until you realize you don't have a body.
right. And it's not, is you're not limited to anything.
Nothing.
And so, well,
Anything.
when you look at this, the exciting part is what they discover is it's like, well, how does this sleep paralysis eventuate where I have these fearful moments? Well, I've identified with a lot of situations where most people have issues from a physicality perspective. Either they've like their mouth breathers, and generally the saturation of the energy is so dense from the breath that they fill their physical body up with so much energy. It's an evoking moment to pop out at a whole nother level.
That's
And
good.
so Does that make sense to you?
Yeah,
And
well, I don't. I need to look at that because I'm thinking about how I did it. Because I remember the ones that I remember way, way long ago when I was a little girl. It would be pressure. I would feel like I had pressure real deep inside, and I would pop out.
right, and that's part of the density of
That's
energy.
the
You know how the
yeah,
breath moves the
yeah,
energy,
yeah.
so it draws it in there.
See
And
now,
so,
yeah, but you
yeah,
can change it now. I go in and I expand the energy and I break through my whole body. I mean, my body just like it opens up and I just walk out.
and so when people are doing this type of stuff, especially with the sleep paralysis thing, because they find that the phenomena, right? They're
What's
like,
good,
this is
I
my
like
gateway. Like it's
yeah,
either NDE or a sleep paralysis in how they're acquiring this OBE. And it's sort of like, well, you do it all the time. This is what's going on. Now it's
exactly.
happening regardless. When the
Yeah,
second you drop into
yeah,
that delta state,
that's what
you're out there having fun with Peter Pan or whoever it is.
it's
You're out there.
daydreaming. I tell people all the time, I said, if you've been daydreaming, you're not present. I said, I saw one my students every time when I was a teacher, when it was in the spring, I'd watch them. The kindergartners would go out, my sixth graders would be gone with them, but their bodies would be sitting right there. And I'd go, everybody get back in your body, get back in your body. And I would say it.
Now, this is something I mentioned this earlier. I was talking to someone. So this is this phenomenon back in the 80s when, Deepak Chopra was sort of enlightening people, right? So, but the funny part is an interaction. I'm not a big fan of Oprah, but let's
Neither,
just
neither me, but
so Oprah's the
she
platform that
opened it up.
she
Oprah,
opened it up,
she opened
but
up
she this is the funny part of the 80s. So she's interviewing Deepak and he's like sitting there and she's like, welcome, Deepak, welcome to the show. And he's like, oh, thank you, thank you. And so, how are you? And he goes, well, I'm not here, but my body is. And then she went, excuse me, we're just going to take a quick break and we'll be right back, because that's a freak out. Just to say that to somebody is a whole nother reality. And that was sort of like an entry point. That's about the only thing I would consider Oprah having offered something to the spiritual community.
well, he brought in some good authors that made you think,
Mhm.
you know, but everything really, I remember the days when my higher self would say, you don't need any more books. You need to practice. You know it all. All you have to do is go in there and practice. And I mean, I would be in there 16, 17, 18 hours. I wouldn't even want to come out, but I had profound experiences in the mirror because I did a lot of mirror work. And if a lot of people would learn the mirror work, they'll see their aura, they'll see their light, they'll see their soul steps right out of their face, look right at them. And because the first time on the mirror that I had an Egyptian woman that came out of the mirror and I fell backwards almost into the back of the tub because, I had a lot of things that were going on all the time in that. And, but it is the most incredible adventure to really do this because this is the way it was set up for us to be able to do.
Oh
We've
yeah.
been that strong in our bodies because we forgot. These are deal breakers for me. I
Well,
mean,
you're understanding that it's like looking at the construct, having you sharing with the audience, oh, I've had a couple of heart attacks, I've had strokes, whatever. Your the transmission from your heart is by far, from everything I see within your whole timeline, the strongest it's ever been.
yes, it is.
It is.
It's amazing. Uh, I work on it all the time. I mean, I do. This is 24 hours a day for me. I don't, I'll go in there and I'll put my hands on the food that I'm going to eat. I said, I don't know what I want. That I don't worry about anything anymore. If I don't have it, I know I can put the energy over it. I can fix it.
And I mean, this is ripples for the audience to understand this. It's like everything within our lives. So what does that mean? It means that I will go to Home Depot and I will look at the aura of a shopping cart. I will look at the aura of an employee that's going to serve me at the checkout counter. We're able to sample all these things to shift whichever energy you want, when you want, how you want.
Yeah. Well, I have one cup I love for a coffee, and every time in the morning I get up, it listens. You know, you can see the aura. And I thought, and one day I said, I mean, because anything that I touch, there's going to be a residual. And I thought, whoever gets this house, because yeah, I live on Angel Avenue, 120 Angel Avenue. You can't make that up.
Make it up. You
Uh-uh.
can't.
You can't make it up. And but I kept thinking, whoever gets this house, because this house is mine, this house talks to me. I mean, she really does. If somebody comes,
Whoever gets this house will get you also.
yeah, go ahead. Now, my everything, my mother, you know, all the planning and everything was done by this small house. But this house wouldn't let me in here when I first came in. I
Mm.
was having it done because had rented people in here, and they weren't very nice. And
Mm.
this house told me, "Don't you ever do that to me again." I
Yeah.
Your house. Oh yeah. I used to call it my mom and dad's house. And one day I was in a deep meditation, and my house said, "I am you. I'm your house. Your mom and dad do not live here anymore." I said,
Wow.
"Okay. I
And,
thank you."
and you know that is another level of perception that
Yes.
comes with a mastery. You know what I mean? Because so many people will get glimpses of these types of like insight, and they dismiss it. Oh, I'm just having a random thought, or you know, this
Oh,
is just me rattling something off. Hook their, they don't sink their teeth into it and
really feel
expand.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you can really cultivate this stuff into such density if you get, either you're getting a notion or you're led to Jenny, you're led to myself to get a deeper
Please. We
understanding of this.
want people to come. I mean, and now I did give you my website. They can go into my website. I've got videos in there. I've got all kinds of things, you know. But we want people who are really ready to wake up. I mean, to really do it's deep work, but it's simple to me and you. But they got, well. The first thing I had to do is, it took 6 months to get my mind just to shut up, and it was chattering mind. I was a chattering mind, chattering mind, chattering mind. Do you know this? How we go to? And I remember one day I leaned back into my own self and watched my mind go crazy.
And that is a defining moment of complete awakening right there,
Yes,
because that is a mastery. You're now being able to observe that, and it's no longer what you're being immersed in. It's now it's become part of the duality as you obtain that oneness.
right.
And so
It's amazing. It's profound, if you want to know. When you listen, and I remember there was a director back here because I had studied acting, and I thought, I always want to be an actress. No, then I remember something said, no, you want to be the director, and whoever is that directing in the back, you need to check in. And it was like, oh my God, it's real. And then I realized you can do anything. I mean, things disappear. I mean, my walls will move into shift. I had people's faces come in, go out. I've had a man that walked through the front door, from the front door, and I was on the phone, and I thought it was somebody trying to get into the house. No, it's somebody that just came through and went back through the hall and left.
and now this this type of excuse me, this type of density of vision, right?
Uh-huh.
I remember very distinctly, probably about 30 years ago, when I first had a switch on of my clairsenses, and
Yes,
it was like a computer screen full of icons, and it was like overwhelming. It
yes,
was literally overwhelming for 4 or 5 days. I honestly thought maybe I don't want this, because I didn't really understand how to maneuver it. At first, it's just like every piece of information comes at you at once, and you just put your intention to something, and you get the answer, you get the information, you get the insight
immediately.
immediately. And so when you're doing this type of stuff, of course, it's like riding a bike. You put your training wheels on and you become more familiar, and then you take the training wheels off. And it's the same thing with sensory perception. With
Yeah,
what Jenny and I are talking about is you start refining it to you.
yeah,
To,
to where it makes you feel comfortable.
Right. And so it's not like too overwhelming. And of course, you can have a myopic view, a micro view, or a macro view of anything. And it really just depends. And so people just find that sort of mind blowing in of
Or
itself.
they can't imagine that they can see it all at one time. It's
Yeah.
overwhelming. It is. But there is one thing I do. It's divine order, because the universe has the rules: divine order, divine timing, divine plan, and most of all, make it easy. We've been trained to be struggling all the time. I do not struggle. And I'll tell you this one. This one's called baked beans. Now, I had a friend that my producer Jeremy came in because I was having Christmas, and then I had friends that I want, and so I was catering in, and I had forgot to do the baked beans. I'd cater it in. I thought, oh, I'm gonna have to, because I've been doing these podcasts and all of these people for 4 months. I had 5,000 to 6,000 emails. I mean, people have come out of the woodwork, but they want something that you can't give them all the time. So I thought, darn it, I don't want to do but I had the ingredients and everything. And I didn't think anything about it in the universe. I just said, I'll do it. So I went over to get the catering stuff, and they came in, and they had this big pot of, that was steaming. And I said, I only got potato salad and, ham and whatever I was. And they said, well, we don't know why we had these baked beans. I said, I do. And I bought them right then. And I went, thank you. And I walked out of there going like, yeah. I didn't even ask. I was so connected that the universe said, I knew that's what you wanted. And they said, we don't know why we bake these. I said, I do. B. Now that's the fun part, because that's baked beans.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't have to ask. Or the day that I made a decision, I was in my couch in my living room, and I said, something told me to stand up, and I stood up, and I put my hands up, and I, like, real big, and I said, I'm ready to speak for you. And the next week I had my first motivational speaking presentation for $1,000. Now
That's
that's
how
not
that's
bad.
how it works, ladies and gentlemen. And that's slowing it down a little bit because you're a little apprehensive because of the modest sort of viewpoint that you have of how you are perceived.
Yes.
Reality is now you're and are aware and allow yourself to
Yeah.
transmit that frequency.
Well, there's still a lot of people who think I'm an ego, or that I think I'm God. Well, I think I am God, but I'm not the God they think I'm God.
Well, we're all
Oh, God.
all God.
We're all capable of doing this. All of us.
Exactly. And the only difference is you believe it.
That's right. Well, for you and I, we really know it.
Right.
Believing it is one thing. We know it. When you know it, there's nothing that you cannot do that you already know. So when you already know it, I don't get all, and when people say something, I mean, people that are not really, so who do you think you are? And I'm going, who do you think you are? You got one finger point and look at the three that's looking at you.
Well, you have this sort of thing. This comes from the Tao Te Ching that we use in Taoism. When you have to learn it, you don't know it. When you know it, you don't have to learn it.
That's exactly. It's
That's
so simple. But obviously, I've been like this for a long time. I just didn't know I was like this. I mean, I did deja vu all the time. It freaked my father and mother out. And they go, I don't know about her. Now, my mother was a lot like me, but like I said, she was scared. Now, she was very intuitive, and she saw my father. My father, when he died, I saw him walk through the hallway. And my mother said to me, and this is how powerful things, she said, don't tell anybody. And this was in the 60s, 68. She said, don't tell anybody that you saw your father. And what she did is she closed everything down. I had a cancer from here, it ran over here all the way to here, because I closed it down, because that's an oscillation point that has to feed it through the energy of it. Because the only reason why I know that is because one day I was in a really deep meditation, and my energy came in and dropped into there, and it was going, and I could see it out in front of me as well as inside of me, and it just, and I thought that's my pineal gland.
Right, right. Now, I mean, you and I could disappear for days. I could literally come into
Yes.
here, and if I did have a wife and children, I'd be gone.
Well, and see, I only have a cat, and he keeps me. If I get really too far out, he bites me to get me back in. Now I can trust him because he knows I'll really go out, and he's always worried that I'm not going to come back. Because once you can go out, if I want to, I don't have to come back if I want to.
Yeah, yeah, but there's a lot of fun being able to take that type of consciousness into this 3D reality.
Yes, it is.
You know,
Yeah.
so it's like people always talk about, well, I want to keep going out, and I want to draw people's attention to what you said from the beginning.
Yeah.
It's not an out, it's an in.
It's an inside job.
And you're going inside.
Yeah.
And Jenny said this from the beginning. So if people did gather and understand that that's what it's all about. When you are practicing this stuff, when you're cultivating this stuff, this is an internal thing, not an external.
Yes. It's all stuff. I can't imagine how that happened, but that happened. It's sometimes when I get really.
Yeah, you look fantastic.
Thank you. Well, and I think for 72 years old and to gone through everything I've gone through, I think I look pretty good.
Oh, you look amazing. And you see your constitution, what we call within Taoism, your Jing level, your essence. Yes. So most people, everyone gets born into this natural born life with an essence, a Jing level. And you just visualize it as a battery. And most people will have anything between 70 and 100%, right? They'll start there. And it'll be a constitutional thing that could be reflected on their DNA, whatever you want to call it. But when you learn how to cultivate energy the way Jenny and I cultivated, and within Taoism, you learn to level your battery up to 100, and then you take that battery from 100 to 1,000, and you don't operate on your own life force.
No.
Universe is the universe for a reason. That's the whole point of using the universe energy.
Exactly. That's why people look old and decrepit, because they're pulling off of their own source.
Yes.
And I try to explain to us, and let the earth and let the conscience bring it forward. And I said, you'll feel it move back and forth. And once you feel that movement, that space, you open everything up.
Easy with those hands, my friend. They're lethal weapons.
I know. I know.
You're putting that, well, it's all your transmission, and then you're moving it around. It's like,
I can go into your back and change your spine. I know, because I've done it. Because people say, they said, your hand is in my body. I said, I know.
Right.
I can go right through your body. I can do, but we all can do that.
Right.
I'm not special. I'm just really the real deal. So are you. We have been practicing. How we got so practiced is because it's been a lot of practice.
Right.
Get out of your own mind.
And it solidifies. What people need to understand is when you're, like, say, for example, you invest in exercise, which is very surfacey, very infantile. When you exercise, your body will express itself, but if you don't maintain that exercise, it will disappear. With this internal alchemy, if you take a break for a week and you come back to it, it's double the strength. It's a different understanding. It's a different nature of cultivation. It never leaves you. It only gets stronger.
It does, because each time I would have a near-death experience or I'd have an out-of-body experience, I got stronger. Especially now, let me tell you, this last heart attack, I knew I was having a heart attack. I had a client that flew in from Delaware, 2 of them, and I was vacuuming and it hit. went through the session. I didn't tell anybody I was having a heart attack. I knew I did get up. I went and vomited because I knew exactly what was going on. I stayed very clear, but I moved. As soon as they left, I went to the ER. Now I work with these people at the ER in my loan because I need an ER. I said, I'm having a heart attack. I need EKG and I need blood work right now. They don't even question it because they've already seen it, how it works with me. So, but that's what I'm saying. Now, this time it took about 7 months. I couldn't get my blood pressure down. It was erratic, and they were irritating me. The doctors, they were trying to push me, and and that gets irritating. And then you're dealing with them, and then you're dealing with this and here. And I remember one day I was just sitting here, and I felt the energy come back through my body, and I called a friend. I said, "I'm back," and that's when it got even stronger.
And this type of stuff, this is kind of like, you remember a guy named Wayne Dyer?
Yes, I do.
And so he's an interesting example of what we're speaking of, because he was battling, I think, a diagnosis of leukemia or something of that nature.
Yeah, because I have a friend that went there to help him.
Right. So you remember a guy named John of God?
Yes.
So he's an interesting guy. That's another story, another day.
That's
But
a whole new stuff, because I know about that one too.
he did a healing on Wayne Dyer. I don't know whether you knew this.
Yeah, no, I didn't know that.
He did a healing on him, and of course, it was a distant healing. And so Wayne basically was like, I don't feel anything. I don't know. I didn't notice anything. He said he did a healing. Now, this is something I want to preface to the audience, that when you are like in a state where you're in denial, the energy, frequency, vibration is taking place regardless of how much you want to tell yourself it's not happening. So what most people tend to do is like, oh, I don't believe it, it's not happening. Well, what happens is, if it doesn't transmute in that feeling that Jenny and I experience, it will come in the form of a thought, an emotional state. It will transform itself, because that's how the universe works. And so you go, oh, well, I didn't feel that energy healing. And then it transmutes into another layer of information, whether it is a thought, whether it is a feeling. And then it basically transforms into another way of accessing what it is necessary. So always remember that no matter what, if you're going to have one of these moments where I've protected myself, this can't happen, unless the only way you protect yourself 1000% is truly to be fearless. If you operate in a little bit of, if you're operating in just a minor cue of duality, and you have that mindset, whatever is going to take place will take place. I promise you. Oh, yeah. And so what happened with Wayne Dyer was, he got this healing. He goes, nothing happened. So he went walking on the beach. He was in Hawaii, went for a walk, and he went face first into the sand. And then he was literally laying in bed for 3 days, adjusting to the conscious shift that took place. Now,
I mean, that.
And the biggest thing was he was contending with this, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, he doesn't have the understanding. He had a lot of knowledge.
Right.
The energy behind the knowledge.
You see, Jenny's making a valid point. So what happened was, and when he came to me after the fact, his validation was, I didn't believe it. And so he walked around telling the world, oh, well, I got a healing from John of God. Leukemia is gone. I'm not testing my blood work. Right. And so in essence, the truth be known, getting a healing from Jenny or myself, this is very true. Yet you are also a component within this cycle. So when you're receiving a healing, the validation is when it's being disturbed, that frequency is being altered, and you're being able to see it with your own very eyes. You can also have the power to reverse it and change it any way you want. Your commitment to it is critical. Mm-hmm. Because guess what? You're a powerful manifester, just as Jenny and I are. So people are like, well, I got a healing. This is a cycle I see a lot.
Yeah.
I was a Reiki master, and I gave this person a healing, and then their ego gets deflated because the following week they come back and go, oh, it's back again. And the problem is it's not about you. This is not about you. And so when the ego gets caught up in, I am the masterful healer.
Right.
Instead of going, I am a catalyst, a conduit to this very essence, this moment, and I'm witnessing it. And the person that is receiving this experience is like, okay, I'm receiving it or not receiving it. Regardless, it's going to be altered. Now, it will come in physical, mental, emotional form, even spiritual, depending upon where you're at. Right. And so all these transformations take place. And so people are like, well, it's back again, or it didn't happen. And this is the fault of new healers. They get in and they get all caught up, and it's like, well, my ego's deflated. I did this incredible thing I thought was amazing. They said it was good, and then the following week they're like, oh, my back pain's back, or I've got a knee ache, or I've got a headache, or whatever. And it's all got to do with what I find really easy is I'm not invested in it.
No.
It's like I'm just here witnessing the transformation and healing, but I'm not invested in it. Like, what the outcome is not for me to decide.
Yeah.
I can facilitate what's taking place and I can make it happen. Now, the same thing with exercising energies and entities. But you can have a romance with this lower frequency and bring it right back in. And that was the example of that student was you'd clear them out, and then they come back the following week, they got all these clingers.
Yeah. Well, see, I stopped. I won't let a client stay in constantly doing. I said, you got to practice. I said, I'm not your practicer. I said, I'm the guide. And I said, if you don't practice it, you're not going to get it. And I even tell people, I said, you think an hour with me is going to give you everything? I said, you're wrong. I said, you have to, they have to come in to see me. They got to get grounded. They have to go through a video to just watch the breath work. I said, because I'll spend all an hour for you, and it's too expensive for me to teach you how to ground and how to breathe.
Yeah.
So I said, that's, I had one man that didn't listen, and he sat there and he said, I don't want to pay $150 an hour for you to teach me how to breathe. I said, I told you, practice.
Right. Well, and when you get in that place of knowing and you got past the mental emotional state and you really sink into that frequency, when you cast magic, manifestation, healing, it's done.
It's done.
It's done.
We'll know it's done.
It's done.
Yes. It won't be the way you thought it would be. It's what it's going to be done. Oh yeah. Cause I've done it. I've done miraculous healings with myself, to come out of that heart attack like that and not take the heart. I'm blessed every day.
The vibrance that's coming out of you, the resonance and the frequency that's coming out of you is representative of a whole different frequency than the one that came from you when you were exhibiting what looks like the physical attributes of deficiency. That doesn't exist. It's gone. It's profound. It's like, we're looking at the vitality of someone that is at the highest frequency. The battery is at 1,000%. It's not at 50. It's not at 70. It's at 1,000, and that comes from mastering the energy.
Thank you, because most people can't even see it.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is about feeling. Once they come in, and I've worked with them a couple of months sometimes, and they finally feel it come through, and you'll see them. They'll go like that, and I go, "Did you feel it?" And they go, "It's real." And it's hard for them because I was always feeling it. I've been like this since I was a little girl. I saw Jesus when I was a little girl. I could talk. I was an animal communicator for a long, long time. I could talk to trees. My mother would say, "You need to get out of the clouds." I danced around. I saw fairies, and then just in the last probably 20 years ago, we saw a sprite, and she was real. And there was 2 other ladies with me, and I saw her first, and I said, "You all," and then we opened it up. We opened up the blades of grass, and there she was. And I looked at those 2 women, and we put her back in, and we sat on this bench by a pond. And we didn't say anything. And finally, somebody said, I don't know who it was. They said, "Did you see that?" I said, "We're not going to talk about this anymore because we did really see it."
Well, you see and it's so tangible. Like when I'm communicating with my teachers, they're as vivid and as tangible as you are right now.
Yes.
And so that's the part where a lot of people get deluded in the sense that they haven't experienced it. So they're like, this is like, they either want 2 scoops. You ever seen that movie When Harry Met Sally? It's like, I want whatever she's having. They either want that, or they're like, oh, no, you're full of it. No, you're full of it. And so, the first thing I like to show people is, let's just do something. Let's just do, as you would say, a little dance here, and I'll
Mhm.
just do a psychic reading on you.
Yeah.
So
I
that
make
then,
them grounded. I'll put my hands on them and they go like that, or they'll feel their body shift. And I said, that's all we have to do. I just have to make sure, or I'll go into their eyes because I can go into their eyes real quick and go down in their body and come back. And they said, you were in my body. I said, I know.
and that's so interesting, because within Taoism we do this thing where we go in the left eye, which is looking into the soul,
Yes. Mhm.
right? And you go deep in there. And many times I've been startled by some of that, just casually going on some event, and I'll be at a restaurant or waiting in line at some sort of like takeaway, and I'll go up to the counter to pick up my order from whoever's behind the counter, and I'd look into their eye, and I discover, a mass serial killer, or the stuff that you can, and they see you.
Yeah.
And
And
then
they know that
and then,
you see them.
oh, you see me.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I
See
do
me.
see you.
Yeah. I had
Yeah,
a whole presentation called, Can You See Me? Oh, yeah. Because,
yeah,
and also you'll see them when they light up with spirit. And I mean, and they'll go, I don't know why. No, I don't even know you. I said, you don't have to know me
right, right.
because you're,
And and that, I mean, this is all representative of part of the sensory perception that Jenny and I talk about. You get you refine these skills, and they present themselves. So you can refine what senses that you want to focus on, and you can see that. It's like plain as day with your eyes open. You can see this stuff, and
Mhm.
so that's kind of like where
Yeah, you can see it. Yeah, because I had to do open eye meditation for a long, because my higher self said, I don't want you to close your eyes anymore. You need to see everything that's going on. And when I started opening that up, I mean, my flowers would arc over to the other flower, and then they come over here. My cat, he's not with me anymore, but now every cat is very well trained because they come to me. They find me. I
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
mean, this is the reality that people dream about. They chase it, as you would call the proverbial chasing the dragon.
Yes, yes. Yes,
And
I remember when I saw the dragon within me.
hmm
I
hmm
was looking in the mirror and I saw it, and it went, and then it gave me a whole understanding about ancient dragons, why they were there. They have different colors. They were, they're the ancient ones, and that's why. And then it said, "Do you know why?" I was when I got married. I took my name. I took this name away. I went to a snip. And the minute that my higher self said, you need to get your name back because your vibration came in here with that name. And it's Virginia Cleo Drake. Feel that. So
wow,
that's why you feel it. You feel, and I was trained how to use my name on a frequency.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean, wow, that, phew,
You can feel it.
oh yeah, I can feel it.
See, now,
It-
yeah.
I mean, I'm just getting excited about having you out here in Vegas, because we
Me
need to have.
too. I'm excited. And I
we-
mean, I have clients there, but I have clients that had some really dark stuff.
Well, that was one of the other things that I noticed with Luxor, was especially down that end. There were a lot of spirits that were placed there before they built the hotel, not so long ago, maybe in the last 70 years. Not like ancient. So we're talking about like things that took place back in the 50s.
Yeah, there's going to be all your gangsters, a lot of dead people underneath there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what they have to do. You have to put dead bodies and energy underneath everything. That's why you go into Rome, everything, or France, all of the catacombs. That's what that is. That's built on other people's energy fields. I had a real hard time going into some places uh, because it would take me back and I would have to go, and then I'd start taking it in and expanding it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, San Francisco is a great one, because
Yeah,
that was a graveyard. And
yes.
so they exhumed the bodies and they dropped the city on top
I
of it.
went
But
to the
the
Drake.
spirits
Oh
leave.
my God. When I went in there, now this before in the 80s, I went to the Drake Hotel, and we had a murder underneath our house, underneath our room, and I felt everything. I mean, because I was new at the, I did not know. I was 4 months pregnant too, and the minute that a woman gets pregnant, then you have a new intent. Your intuition and everything starts coming up. And then you start really getting very aware. Well, I didn't understand all of this. It would freaked me out because I go in there and I think that, but I didn't have the ability until I had the near death experience in 1998 to wake me up to that. Then it was like it opened everything up, and it took me all the way. So, do you remember this? Do you remember this? Do you remember this? Because I had all these places where I had left that energy to gather it again, to remember it.
Yeah.
A lot of people have held other people's energy for them to give them back to them.
Well, I mean, that's just part of the interesting construct of loosh.
Yes.
Yeah, and when you get that, even that coined term, I think it came from like was it oh my
It's
goodness,
it's a
it actually came from Bob Monroe.
Bob Monroe.
So Monroe Institute, these
Oh,
guys,
okay. I tried the hemisync.
yeah,
I
and
can't do the hemisync.
yeah. I
Oh,
mean,
I get it all.
right, and those type of frequencies
Yeah.
resonate with some and not others. But I mean, understanding that terminology, I mean, it really is just another source of energy that
It is.
is.
But they've transmuted that into something even stronger from a beingness. And it does, and it really equates to children.
Mm,
So
yeah,
that's what it is. It's taking the innocence of a child. That's a different energy. When you see them do that to a child, that's when I get really mad. And
yeah,
I have been because I was a psychiatric social worker. So I knew a lot of this stuff as a social worker. That's when I knew I couldn't. That's when I went back to being a teacher because I wanted to be with kids when I was watching them, and I can see how they process. Well, I knew exactly how to the left or the right. I
mhm,
knew if they were in the creative side of the mind. I taught children how to go into the hemisphere, right into the center, to open it up to both sides.
yeah,
And see,
yeah,
I was dyslexic, so I could go back and forth.
yeah. I mean, that pulpability, when you sync the upper, what I call the upper dantian within Taoism, or just the upper energy center for most people, or the sixth chakra, however you want to
Yeah,
coin it.
yeah.
It's an energy,
It's a point
uh,
for me.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a
yeah,
point in my body. It's because I
yeah,
don't see chakras or anything. I just feel the points.
yeah, energy points. I mean, from Taoism, we just call them energy centers.
Yeah, energy centers. I don't even use that. I feel it. It talks
Mhm.
to me, or I need to go in. You need to open that up. Um, that I was working with my heart before I went in and I did some meditation, and I said I really want to have my heart open for it because I knew you were going to get me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we get each other, my friend, and
Yeah,
that understanding, but it comes from a place of knowing, and everyone has the ability to know these things, experience these things.
oh my gosh,
It's where
yes.
you're at in your consciousness, and that's why coming across Jenny or myself, you're able to acquire that.
Yeah.
It's all of a sudden a shift in consciousness. We show you something that you would, in your mind, defy as impossible or a miracle or superhuman or however you want to define it.
And
And when it
that human sounds good for me.
and when it happens before your very eyes, then you're like,
Oh my gosh, you can do it. Because I remember when the laser went out of my finger. I mean, I went zoom and I went like that, and I could do. And I thought, this is real. But you
1,000.
got to be very conscious.
Right.
You
And
cannot misuse it.
that cultivation is what we talk about. The more the amount of time that you spend in your meditative state is acquiring this ability to, so you concentrate it. So say if you've invested that amount of time, all of a sudden what maybe a year ago took you X amount of time for is like instantaneous.
Yes.
That's part of the mastery. That's
Yes.
how it
Well,
works.
it took, I've been doing it for 25 years, almost 26 years. But the first 6 or 7 months were the hardest because you had to get out of your mind, you had to get it empty, and then you'd have to go through, and then you're still being trained outside of yourself in the programmings that you're going, being a mother, being a teacher. And I remember it was like this, and then I remember I could feel both sides of the world. I could feel the world of man and then the spirit where I was in. And then I thought, how does that work? And then I quit my job. I was told on my 50th birthday, I drove in because my higher self said, you need to stop, you need to quit your job today. But I didn't quit it. But I told them, I said, I will not come back. I want 2 weeks if I need 2 weeks because I had the heart attack. And I mean, I was only getting 3 months that I was in, to really address it. And I didn't want to teach anymore. After that 3 months, of being with my higher self, I was just more, everybody asked me a lot. They said, what do you feel about that? I said, I was confused a lot of it because I knew I'd seen a lot of things in that hospital. I saw my body. I saw my death. I saw, things that were going on. The woman next to me, it was massive. But this is the result of all that hard work in 1998 is right here.
Yeah.
That's the most amazing part of it is that I survived it all.
Well, and it's amazing to a degree, but you already know. You
Mhm.
already know that you're in the perfect place you need to be, and this is
Absolutely.
literally, even though you have shared that you're 72 years young, this
Mhm.
is just the beginning. We haven't even got started yet.
I agree. I think this is going to be, I feel like I get stronger and younger as I get older because I'm wiser. I don't get myself all bent out of shape of a lot of things that don't matter anymore.
Well,
And
you see, well, when you say that, it's like that's not typical because people tend to be like, "Oh, look, age equals wisdom." No, not necessarily. Take a look at the people that run this country, and you know very well that's not
yeah,
true.
well,
Yeah, that's a whole nother story. But you
we
can,
can sit down and really talk about that because that's a whole new ball game. It seemed like
but
on a god. Woo.
right, right. And I mean,
I picked him up immediately because I almost got to go to meet him. And my house self said no, no. And I kept thinking, that was before anything came out about him or anything. And I thought and I watched him. I watched him. I sat and I watched him, and there was something that just didn't ring right. So I just never did go. I mean, I had an opportunity and I just didn't go. That when I found out the whole story on what was going on, I thought, gosh. But also with the one who was it we were talking about? Mm,
Wayne
yes,
Dyer.
a friend of mine went to him and took him to the clinic of the what is his name too, but took him there because he was dying.
Hmm.
Because he had to do a blood changing and all. He had a. I didn't know this man, personally or anything, but there was a block in that.
Hmm. Hmm.
It was an energy block. He could talk it, but he couldn't live it.
Well, that was the biggest confession. Talking to him now, that's the confession. It's like
Yeah,
I didn't believe it.
yeah, yeah. Because he was a psychiatrist, wasn't he?
No, he was more.
Or a
He
psychologist?
sort of spent most of his. He may have what most people know him for is his literally his relationship with Taoism, and so he spent
Really? I would never have guessed that.
right. So he spent a lot of time sharing the insight of the Tao Te Ching, a very simple understanding, right? So yeah, that's a whole nother ball game.
Yes,
And
because I would never guess that because I was very much into this then. And
yeah,
and I mean, I drank it, I ate it, I felt it. I wanted to do it all, and I brought in workshops, I brought people in, And yeah, no, I'm shocked at that.
Yeah, it's an interesting insight. You know,
Yes,
you change your view of things, and he had a real handle on stuff, but there was still that deep doubt.
yeah, he had, well, and you have to really feel it. You've got to have an experience with it and dance with it. And that's why I
And
said the beast and the beauty. You
well, you
dance
say, "No,
together.
I'm gonna steal that little coined incredible insight. I'm going to dance with it just for my good friend Jenny here. I'm going to dance with it because it really is. That's what it is. When you start to realize how palpable this stuff is, and
Yes.
the misdirection and the fallacy is that as you get higher in ascension, that it gets thinner. No, it gets thicker.
It gets real thick.
And people just that's the part where I
Yeah,
know, when someone's talking to you about it and they dismiss it as if it's just it disappears, then you know very clearly, intuitively, that they're speaking of something that they're not experienced in, and that's okay. Yet, a lot of people tend to do the fake it till you make it stuff,
yeah.
which
I
it
don't like that. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But now, what I do know when I'm working with clients and I'm really working with, they'll feel the light first. They'll feel lighter. Their body will even feel taller because that's when they're just starting to get the activation is starting to come up. Because once they get out, you do have more of a density around you. But that's where you recture, you figure it out that when you can go through this is more dense than this. That becomes you give a whole different understanding. That's why I knew a wall was completely different than going through something wood. You have a whole understanding about what it is, and that's just a whole, well, to me that's the trueness why we're here is the energy.
yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I
because
mean,
the words they're too, well, that's babble.
well,
Real.
well, those words become babble, but the charge is what's
Oh
yeah,
my god, yes, that's the charge, the word behind the word. That's what it is, and that's how
right.
Jesus said there's a Bible within the Bible.
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
learn that inner Bible and it's a whole different experience.
It's secret to the nature of all things. It's
It is.
like, within Taoism we call it the name that cannot be named.
That's
Uh,
very good.
yeah,
Yes,
and it's echoing right there in you. It's echoing. It's there
it
in
is.
every sense.
Yeah,
And so that inaudible, tangible feeling that you get, it's like, and that's where we go into different grades of like magic when you're using sound,
hmm,
and it doesn't have to come in the form of something that you can hear,
that's right.
because it's all different laid
You can
levels of
feel it through
feeling.
your body. That's how I would find out my healing where I needed, because the sound would be indifferent or it would be stronger, higher. I even know all the levels and how I melt down to these different levels. And I know what it feels like to be a tree and to
Yeah,
be that, because that is what it is. You're the tree of life. And I knew how that felt. I knew the canopy and how it would feel. But I also felt the feathers of a bird. You know, it's all in one. But when you make that quantum leap over to one thing, you really have a different texture of it. And well, like walking in through the sun, I literally walked through the sun one time and on the path of light and walked right through it. And I remember thinking that was the coolest thing I've ever done in my life.
and it's so palpable.
Yes. Oh, I
It's
felt every bit
right.
of it.
You can feel it from head to toe. It's
Yeah.
a complete
And it
transition.
vibrates.
All
Yeah.
of it, all of it is vibrating.
Yeah.
And so, my goodness, we're just getting started, ladies and gentlemen. But I'm going to say this: I feel like this is a good part one that we've just entered into, this incredible
And thank you. This has
realization.
been delightful for me. It's been
Oh
delightful.
my goodness, it's just amazing. Just sharing with what I know to be family, sharing with what
Yeah.
I know to be
Thank
oneness.
you. I think we are fan. And I know that because I haven't felt this comfortable like this in a long, long, long time. I felt that with my friends like Jeremy, but you've, hey, you're
Well,
huge.
Well, where we are one and we are completely expressed that way. And
Yes.
I'm going to say, before we leave today, I want to ask you a question. I always ask this question. What is your definition of consciousness?
Right now,
Yeah.
this moment.
Woo, 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 woo.
Feel that. This is what we're in,
Oh
right?
my goodness. Yeah. It's like, my goodness, we've captured this. So now everyone that watches this gets to express that and feel that signature that was just transmitted.
Yes.
Really is now. It
Yeah.
is now.
It's
That's it.
right now and feel it.
Wow.
Hmm.
Wow. And so on in closing, I want you to share with the audience, what are you doing right now? Where can people find you? I'm going to put all your social under this podcast, but tell them what's going on with Jenny right now.
Well, for the last 4 months, I had to get a producer. I had to get another website. And we have put videos in there. I mean, if they'll go to my website, they can get private sessions, but they don't want to do private sessions. We've got small groups coming in there. We've got webinars going in. And these people are starting to gather. Now these small groups are starting to gather, and they're all starting to get excited about. They can feel the energy. They can feel each other. And so that's what we want. I mean, if you want to come and get a session, you're going to get an hour session for a lot of money that you're not going to get the same buck for your money, because webinars, you can pay $5 to whatever you choose. Small groups, I think they're 75. And if you join our membership of 111 a month, you get a whole lot of ops, because we talk on there. We do a coffee chat for 30 minutes. I talk about what I've talked to you about, what's going on daily, why you're feeling the way you are. I think what I've done is, I never thought I'd ever do this. Never thought I would ever be out there like that again. And I'm excited. I'm excited for 2024, because this is the time to really, for them to really start feeling all of this, going down deep and asking a lot of questions. Am I ready to really wake up to this? Because it can be done, and it is being done. But we have to do it in frequency, and you know that. But I said, if I just brought in the 3 or 4 that I know and that you know, we'd probably change the world right then. And I'm ready to do that.
Well, am I?
Yeah,
Let
let's do
let's do this.
if
Let's do
we do
this.
it on the Zoom. We can, I mean, because I'm ready for people who are ready to join in, to be that tone, because it's like an orchestra, and you know that as well. And everyone has to have an instrument that they have to come in with. That's what brings this tone to come in. It's not just us, and it only takes two or more.
Well, yeah, and when Jenny's talking about, for all the audience members that are listening, it's about when she creates a collective of people that are coming in, she links the energy in, and then it just amplifies. It's like
Yes,
it's a whole nother.
and that's
I've done this group healings. I think the most I've ever done is like 1,000, and you
oh wow,
link them in,
yeah.
and it's like you're swimming in this stuff for
Oh,
days.
oh my gosh. Well, when all those emails started coming in from that one video, we felt it coming in. We were riding in it. I mean, and then we felt it come back down, and then you saw it come back over. And I thought, this is going to be a big ride.
And you mentioned Jeff. He's such an awesome energy.
Yeah. Well, he's a little bit more muted for me.
Yeah, yeah,
And he had an agenda, and we were trying to lure the agenda over, and
yeah,
I
yeah.
would the agenda back over, because I'm not into aliens or any of that. I'm into this.
You see, this is beautiful because I have spent 30 years of my natural born life operating in the spirit realm, in this high level of consciousness, and
Oh,
I have never seen, probably once or twice, the alien form. And in the last 5 weeks,
you seeing it?
last 5 weeks, I just see it so many times in people's fields, and it's like,
Oh, I saw the Magnus. I mean the prayer Madness. I saw the Madnesses. I've seen the ants. I've seen the roaches. I've seen the red eyes. I've seen the black eyes. I had an eye literally that came into my room like a giant eye. And I was a little girl because I saw this. Dolls were moving, energy could fly over. I mean, but that was because of kinetics. I was not strong enough to know how to reprogram or balance that. Because that's why I mean, I'm sure that my mom and dad were feeling it all the time. And he only came in on the weekends. So I'm sure. And then they put this little girl in a theater room. Oh, wrong. I mean, things I was seeing I should not have been seeing. Disney, Bambi threw me into a hole because there was nothing that was done. It was all done in sound when that deer was killed, but you feel it. See, now I was a little girl, so I took in a lot of things. So during the pandemic, I went through all of Disney, everywhere that I went, and pulled every program out of myself.
Yeah. I mean, that's profound healing.
It is.
When we talk about this sort of alien stuff, what are your concepts? Because I'm getting it very clearly. I came across this energy called Thoth. Have you ever heard of Thoth
Yeah,
before?
yes.
I came across this, not that impressed, to be honest with you.
No.
And the intention of that energy was very clear, and it spelt it out. And it was very much in the consensus of anyone that reads this emerald tablets will be hypnotized.
Ah,
And
I
it was
love
very
him.
clear message. And here's the blowing part, the stuff that we love, right? So I'm like, okay, I take you very seriously. The spirit realm is the realm I live in. This is a dimensional shift. And I go and I take a closer look at him, and he was like literally the godfather of hypnosis.
Wow.
And
Yeah,
so you look at those tablets, and it's almost like this group think that has come. If you haven't noticed, it's like the emerald tablets, the Egyptian energy, and it's like a programming.
it
That,
is. It is. Well, they're trying to take they're grabbing a lot of people and taking them through the books. And that's a different kind of, if they would take that energy and just ponder it, what they're looking at these tablets and bring it into themselves to a different way, they will get more information, but they're following their guidelines. You're never going to get to the fullness of what that is because they don't want you to, because it's a society. It's a secret society. They don't want you to know all of that.
and they're basically they're stealing what he said was, he didn't imply it, he said it. Anyone that reads this stuff, I then access their unconscious and have control of their body, mind, and spirit. And I'm like,
No, I
I'm
didn't
not
get
interested in that.
I
What?
didn't get that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
got there were some blocks in there. I could pull them out, but I didn't really. No, my God, my higher self didn't allow me to do a lot of the debbing in like that. It just no. I had to find myself,
Yeah.
and I would go into books. Now I've got hundreds of books. And I could just put my hands on the book, and I'd say, well, "There's something in this book," and I would open it up, and it would give me that, and then I throw it away. Be gone.
That's exactly how I do things.
Yeah, I don't go and read the whole
You know,
book.
the only part that is relevant.
That's exactly.
Like it takes a second. But when I was referencing this body, mind, and spirit stuff, I'm talking about Thoth and the Emerald Tablets. That's
Yes.
what the message was. And so that to me was very not so good.
No, well, I never I knew about it, but
Mhm.
I never did address a lot of the, now, if I was working in a book and if that presence or that spirit would show up, I would treat it, I would treat it as that's what it was,
Mhm.
you know,
Right.
and let
Right.
it take over because I knew that I don't dance with these kind of things.
Well, and taking over is a whole nother story. But the insight from that was very clear. The takeaway that he gave me was you're it's lured by
Yeah.
information seekers.
Well, anytime
So
that,
information
yeah,
is accumulation. It doesn't mean that you're actually transmitting that. You're not taking. You're just accumulating it. You're not able to practice it.
yeah, yeah, because that's what I saw in it. Well, there was a lot of books that I saw that, everybody thought they were profound, and I'm thinking, no, I didn't think that was too profound. You know,
Right.
didn't bring
It,
me anything. So if it didn't bring me anything, but I mean, I've got books, like I said, I can go right in down to the line. And I mean, I can just go and I mean, I used to have a whole lot of books around me, and they would call me. I mean, you need to open the book, and I'd open it up. There it was. Same thing about the Bible. It can do the same thing in the Bible.
And that's how you discern or affirm things.
That's it. Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
In or, in or out, or yes or no.
Right. Right.
That's all it's really simple. The less you are involved in your mind or your words, and you feel the energy, because I know what no feels and I know what yes feels.
Yeah. Well, and this is interesting. When I teach people this, you will find that you get a very clear sound, but also a very clear vision. And then
Yeah.
I go, okay, you've got this message. We're training you in this. Now change it. And they're
Yeah.
like, I can't. No, you can't. It doesn't matter how hard you want to twist it in your mind, it will not be distorted.
Because it's truth.
Mm-hmm.
Once truth is truth, you cannot change truth. Truth is truth. It rings true. You've got to be able to understand it, though.
From here.
Yeah. And if you don't,
I'm getting these weird things in the
well, but that's frequency.
It is frequency. It is frequency. Oh my goodness, this has been, I would have to say, just in the same words as my 3-year-old. This is the best day ever. The best day.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I really, we get each other, and that's the nicest dance you can have, is when two people can dance and they can be in two different places, but our spirits still dance together.
Yeah, yeah.
So
it's like a coming home for me.
it is. It did. It felt, because it was like I could take a breath. I don't have to hide or pretend like, and I'm not pretending, but some things my words would not come out because they're not ready.
Yeah, you tend to filter. I've never had that hurdle, and maybe it's just the way that I've walked through my own journey, but I haven't really I've never been subject to being so concerned with what people think, because from decades I'd have conversation. Well, what do you do? Oh, I'm a Taoist priest. Oh, what does that mean? Oh, exorcisms, healings, clearings. And people are not talking about it like, here, let me have a cup of coffee. And by the way, I do. And people are like,
well, I feel the same way.
That?
But I try to, because when you can feel them with their eyebrow, I mean, working with you, you have not, I can feel the energy in and out. We're in a flow, but I can feel their energy going, ooh, that's too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'll flip it, because I'll know no, you've been pushing. But now with Jeff, that first one, I mean, I spoke it out very loudly, and you could feel it rippling. I knew it was rippling. But that second one, he had already said, I was in there probably in less than 2 weeks later, and they were waiting for me. They lowered that, and I felt it. Now, Jeff had a blood sugar low, and I'm sitting there, and then he starts going down. I said, stop the recording, stop the reporting. And he said, what's the matter? I said, something's going on. He had a low blood sugar, and I raised him frequency back up, and he looked at me and he said, how did you do that? I said, that's what I do for a living. This is exactly what I do. And he was like stunned. But it also, you could feel the energy when they heard me coming in. This part doesn't want anybody to wake up, because what I said on that first one was loud and very clear, and empowerment of people. No, they don't want you to empower people.
Yeah. Yeah. I always say this to people: your truth is the only truth you need to be concerned with. And that is like, whoa, hang on. That's really dangerous rhetoric. You shouldn't be saying that someone could actually believe what they want to believe, and it's their truth. And people are like, that to me is a barometer of an authoritarian.
Yes.
When someone has to control you, I mean, I curb myself. Sometimes I'll find adjectives coming out of my mouth that may not be they may be a little flowerier than most people would prefer.
To get their attention.
And they get their attention, but moreover, you watch the reaction, right? So someone who wants to control you will tell you, listen, you're offending me. Don't use those type of words.
Yeah.
And then okay.
And I use those words to see what they're going to do with them.
Right, right, and that's a complete control. Control.
Right. Yeah, see, I don't care if they get upset. I just don't. I don't, if you already know where they are right then by why they get upset by what you say.
And so,
And
what was the outcome of the Jeff last one?
well, that last one was very about, I think 61,000 people came in. Now this one, the one that it's on now, it's 740,000. And I mean, it went up within 3 weeks. It was already, and I was like, wait a minute. My phone was ringing. People found out about where I lived. I mean, people wanted to fly in to meet me. And I was like, I'm freaked out. I am freaked out for that, because I never had anything like that. And so it was overwhelming at first. And then I called Jeremy immediately and I said, when you got 50 emails sitting in on your email, and I mean that's woke me up the first night. I kept hearing it going ding, 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 ding. And I thought, who in the world is when I opened it up, it was 50 emails. First thing, but what it was, help me, help me, help me, help me. And I said, I can't do help. It's too difficult because they've already programmed themselves. They want someone to heal them. And I said, I'm not going to heal you. I'll teach you how to heal, but I'm not going to be the healer. That's too much work.
And that's where we get a group environment, throw them in there, and just run some juice through them.
That's what we do with the small groups. And that's what they're now realizing, that everybody coming together, it's a much stronger bond and more people get healed in it than we do one-on-one. You just get a lot more for the buck. And that's what I call it. I
Yeah.
don't want people out there, trying to, I don't want to cause a lot of problems, but I'm going to get very still because most people don't want to hear what I've got to say anyway, because I'm going to be straight to the heart. I'm going to go right to it because I figured it out already before they ever opened their mouth. I've already seen them. And that you can do the same thing. We don't have to go through a whole lot of stories I'm already looking. I'm already seeing the points. I'm seeing how they're lighting up, watching how they're looking. I already know where they are. And then
Yeah.
people get mad at us because they didn't get their hour because I can do it in less than 15 minutes.
Well, that's the one thing I always ask people. It's like, people are like, oh, give me a psychic reading. I'm like, you sure? Oh yeah, 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 give it to me. And this happens to me often. And I'm like, are you sure? Yes, I want you to. Thinking, well, I can hide myself from the world. I can really put a veil over the top of it. And then when I start going down into just looking at the energy, next minute I'm telling them about their mental, emotional, and physical state, right down to sexual dysfunction, and they're like, whoa, oh, what?
But
And
you,
they freak out.
oh yes,
They
or when
freak out.
you go down into their body, you can see things they've done.
And they're like, you, I didn't think you could do that. And then at first it's like, well, it's good. I want people to learn from this and really, and then all of a sudden after it happens, or if I record it or whatever, the regret comes in and they start to realize I didn't want to do that. I should never have done that.
Well, but they had that. They opened it up. They
I
gave
know.
it opportunity to look at
I
it again.
2 or 3 times just to be, you sure? 100, you sure this is the normal outcome? Are you sure? 100%. And it's a I love you or hate you moment.
Oh, I know. Because I'll say the same, and I've said the same thing. I said, "Are you really wanting me to tell you what you want me to tell you, or do you want me to tell you what you want me to tell you?" Because I can tell you two ways. I can tell you exactly what you want me to tell you, or do you want me to really tell you who it really is, what's going on? And they usually go, and I said, you too long. I said, you're not ready for that. And then they
Yeah.
get mad. Or I've asked them to leave. I said, you need to leave. If they can't, they want something. I said, you're not going to get what you want. I can tell you right now because you're wanting it. That's your physicalness of it and your desperation. I said, you're never desperate with the soul. The soul sits back and says, why are they desperate? They don't know how to handle that. So, yeah.
This, my friend, has been profound. and I'm just really grateful to
Thank
be
you.
at home with family, and
Yeah.
that's what it feels like. That's how it is. That's what I'm expressing. And it's that grounding and that wholeness that comes with just us sharing.
Yes. Just being normal the way we live. This is way we live. And I mean, I love it.
And and this is the thing, we're not having to curb ourselves
No,
or pretend that we have to be guarded because we don't want to say or do something that will be
I
um,
can't do it anymore. Can you do it anymore? I can't do it. I
I don't
tried when I was
I
a
don't I
kid.
don't I
can't
just
do it.
don't.
I can't do it. I've tried and I've made people mad, but I just can't. I just can't anymore.
Yeah, and I mean that's the whole point. We don't have to.
No.
So we're gonna make this a part two. I can't wait to do that. We'll give you a couple of weeks to get settled. I'm like I won't stop now because you're I'm awakened to this incredible bond and friendship. So we'll
Yes.
we'll be we'll be we'll
We'll
be
be working. You know how it is. I'll see you in your dreams. You'll see me in yours. So we'll
yeah,
be probably meeting up in the universe and discussing this on another level. Because
absolutely.
I can feel that you understand the same way I feel. We got to open this up so people can see the darkness as well as the light, so we can bring it all forward.
Oh, that's exactly what's taking place.
Yeah, that's what
And,
I feel. You got
and
to
it's
the fear of it all.
yeah. All right, my friend. Well, I want to thank you so much. I'm so grateful that you're in my life, that the Tao brought you to me,
Thank you.
and we will meet again very soon.
Yes, we will.
And I am your humble servant and seafood, Taoist Master San Quinn, and I will see you on the next one, guys.